She leaped into a stranger stagecoach with tears in her eyes and whispered, "Please, just until the next town, pretend you're my husband." The rancher had never seen her before, but one look at the riders chasing her told him she wasn't lying. He tipped his hat, wrapped an arm around her shoulders, and answered, "My wife stays with me." What happened next would change both of their lives forever, and the ending will leave you believing that one brave lie can become the truest love of all. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for more unforgettable Wild West stories of courage, kindness, and second chances. The afternoon sun burned across the Red Rock Canyon as Caleb Turner guided his stagecoach along the lonely trail toward Cedar Ridge. At 42, Caleb was known throughout the territory as a dependable rancher who hauled supplies and passengers when needed. He spoke little, worked hard, and treated everyone with respect. Since losing his wife many years earlier, he had devoted himself to his ranch and believed his heart had nothing left to offer anyone. Dust drifted behind the wagon wheels when suddenly he noticed movement ahead. A young woman stumbled from behind a cluster of desert rocks. Her faded green dress was torn, her boots nearly worn through, and her face was streaked with tears and dust. She looked over her shoulder every few seconds as if death itself were chasing her. Before Caleb could speak, she rushed to the stagecoach and climbed inside. "Please," she whispered between frightened breaths, "don't send me away." Caleb tightened the reins and studied her carefully. "I won't harm you," he said calmly, "but someone surely frightened you." Her trembling hands clutched the edge of the wagon. "They're coming." Almost immediately, distant hoofbeats echoed through the canyon. The woman's face turned pale. "They'll kill me or force me back." Caleb looked toward the trail. 4 riders were approaching quickly. "Who are they?" "My uncle sold me to a wealthy landowner twice my age. I ran before the wedding. They'll never stop looking." Caleb had heard stories like hers before. He had also seen too many honest women treated like property. The riders were nearly upon them. The young woman suddenly grabbed Caleb's sleeve. "Please." Her voice broke. "Act like you're my husband." For one silent moment, Caleb stared at her. Then he nodded. Without another word, he wrapped his arm gently around her shoulders just as the riders surrounded the wagon. One rough-looking man pointed toward her. "We're looking for a runaway bride." Caleb answered without hesitation. "You won't find one here." The man narrowed his eyes. "Who's the woman?" Caleb smiled slightly. "My wife." The frightened young woman lowered her eyes, praying the men believed him. The leader studied both of them before glancing at the wagon filled with ranch supplies. "You got proof?" Caleb chuckled. "Only a foolish man asks another husband to prove his marriage." The other riders laughed. For several tense seconds, nobody moved. Then the leader spat into the dust. "Wrong wagon." The riders turned and galloped away. Only after the hoofbeats disappeared did the young woman begin crying quietly. Caleb handed her his canteen. "You don't have to be afraid anymore." She accepted it with shaking hands. "My name is Emily." "Caleb." She looked at him with grateful eyes. "You just saved my life." Caleb stared toward the endless trail ahead. Something told him their journey together had only just begun. Emily traveled with Caleb toward his ranch, still glancing over her shoulder whenever dust rose along the trail. She expected him to ask questions or demand payment for helping her, but he did neither. Instead, he offered her food, fresh water, and the quiet comfort of knowing she was finally safe. During the long journey, she told him how her parents had died years earlier and how her greedy uncle had arranged her marriage to settle his debts. Caleb listened without interrupting. The more he learned about her courage, the more he admired her strength. She hadn't run away for adventure. She had run to protect her freedom and dignity. As sunset painted the canyon in shades of gold, they stopped beside a small creek. Caleb prepared coffee while Emily cooked a simple meal from the supplies in the wagon. It felt strangely peaceful, almost like they had known each other for years. For the first time in weeks, Emily smiled. Caleb realized he had not seen such kindness in a long time, and her quiet courage began softening the lonely walls around his heart. The next morning, they reached the ranch, but trouble was waiting. Two of the men who had chased Emily rode through the front gate, claiming she belonged to another man. Caleb stepped forward without fear. "She isn't property," he said firmly. "She decides where she belongs." The ranch hands gathered behind him, ready to defend her if necessary. Seeing they were outnumbered and unable to force Emily away, the men finally rode off with angry threats. Emily's eyes filled with grateful tears. She whispered, "You risked everything for someone you barely knew." Caleb smiled gently. Sometimes doing what's right is worth every risk. For the first time since escaping, Emily truly believed her future might hold more than fear, and neither of them realized that the lie they had told on the dusty trail was slowly becoming something neither wanted to end. Emily traveled with Caleb, still afraid the men chasing her would return. Along the way, she shared the truth. After her parents died, her uncle tried to force her into marriage to repay his debts. Caleb listened quietly, respecting her courage and determination to choose freedom over fear. That evening, they shared a simple meal beside a creek. For the first time in weeks, Emily felt safe enough to smile. Caleb admired her kindness and strength, realizing she was far different from the frightened stranger who had climbed into his stagecoach. When they reached the ranch, two armed riders appeared, demanding Emily be returned. Caleb stepped in front of her without hesitation. "She belongs to no one but herself," he said firmly. His ranch hands gathered behind him, forcing the men to retreat. Tears filled Emily's eyes. "You risked everything for me." Caleb smiled gently. Everyone deserves the chance to live free. As the danger faded, both realized the pretend marriage that had begun as protection was slowly becoming something much more real.